Hello and welcome to the Mission Strong podcast. I'm your co-host, John Jagsney, and today our host, Justin Yee, had the opportunity to interview a close friend of his. His name is Eric Kirsch. He is a coach of many teams in Orange County, California, and this is their conversation about them as coaches, parents, their upbringing, and how it's help them evolve into who they are today. So without further ado, here's the conversation between Justin Yee and Coach Eric Kirsch.
Welcome to the Mission Strong podcast. This is episode number 3. I'm your host, Justin Yee, and today I'm with Eric Kirsch.
How you doing?
There we go. Eric Kirsch is currently the assistant men's soccer coach at Concordia University in Irvine. He's also the head coach at JSerra Catholic High School down here in San Juan Capistrano. And, because that's not enough, he coaches a U16 and U14 boys soccer team with the OC Surf Soccer Club here in Orange County. So that's why we're on the road already, episode number 3, trying to catch up with Coach Kirsch pretty early here. It's actually 6:30 in the morning on a Wednesday because he got started half an hour ago, and we stole him from his training session here down at JSerra. So, thanks, Coach.
Thank you. It's awesome to be here.
Yeah, so we're only on episode number 3, and a lot of what we're trying to do with the podcast is give maybe a lot of your parents and players that you've coached, and I was thinking about that on the drive here because I've been fortunate enough to work with some of your players, thinking that you've got kids playing at UC San Diego, San Diego State,
Princeton,
UCLA, UC Irvine. Let's not forget
all the Big Ten,
West Point.
West Point.
Minor places in the world.
Yeah.
So just creating tomorrow's future leaders, and I think that's kind of neat, right? When you look at that pedigree of where they are, soccer players playing there for you. That's got to be pretty rewarding.
Yeah, and the most rewarding thing is that they're still great guys. So they come back, and they're not just like, they come back obviously very proud of themselves playing at a high level, but they also come back like they were 10 years old.
You know what's neat about that? And they come back like they're kids, right?
Yeah.
Hanging out with Coach again. I got a text from our Princeton guy the other day. Right, but this speaks to the character of athletes that I've seen you develop over the years. He sent me a text saying, I am enjoying your workouts. I'm following them online. And it was like, that's cool.
That's cool.
Not only cool that I think what we've created, that they're taking stuff with them, but they're mature enough to also know that we appreciate hearing from them.
And they're appreciative now. So they're a lot more mature about how special that time was we had. How the time you had with that 18 team I had.
Yeah.
In there doing Jack Street.
Yeah.
I think that's the funniest thing was that one time in training, I asked them, "Do you want to train tomorrow or go to with Justin and work out?" And they said, "We want to go to Justin to do Jack Street." And he wanted to come work out with the ball.
Sometimes you got to know what you want.
And I was like, okay, they're appreciating their bodies, they're appreciating their time with you, and I think that's the most important thing is when they're gone and they're away from us is, can they take those moments and realize what they're going to have to, how they fit their timeline in their life? I think that's so important because you see as men, like, how are we putting our time? What are we putting our time into? Good things, bad things, like the old story, if you feed the good wolf, good things will happen. If you feed the bad wolf, bad things will happen. So that's kind of, I think, what we're seeing with that, like, as these kids grow up is they're, like I always told you, walking through Costco. I don't know why I meet all the time. I meet ex-players in Costco. I don't know what it is.
We love food.
I probably. Clearly. So I always walk with a cart and I see and I hear Coach. And he could be 40, he could be 35, but he comes up and he's either sometimes with his family, by himself, with his kids, and they're excited to see you like they were when they ran on the field at 13, saying, "Hey, Coach, how's it going?" and happy about practice. And that's a cool thing. I don't have to run, because some of those guys are pretty big now.
Yeah. I think that's we look into coaching, right? And I think, where do we start here? And so I want to hear a lot of where I kind of know where you currently are.
Yeah.
right? Because we kind of work together with some of the athletes and that type of stuff. It's like, well, we know where we are now.
Yeah.
And I think what's really intriguing to me is, how did you get here, right? It's been a long journey, man. It's been a long journey. So this is kind of a tough question. So maybe just telling the story. Let's keep it. Let's keep it. Make sure we know.
How long the batteries?
Right? How long the battery going to
get
last?
that plugged in?
I'll have to go multiple podcasts
so we're gonna have to do some series.
But because I want to get into give insight and tools to some of our, and I don't even want to just say parents, right? Any of our maybe coaches, parents, anybody that has influence on young people today, is really what we're trying to accomplish. So as we do that, maybe it's sharing these stories, like what got Eric Kirsch to where he is, right? Not that is the pattern that every athlete has to follow to accomplish things. And real quick, because I'm going to have to draw some of this out of you, but you played professionally in Germany.
Yes, I played 5 years in Germany.
In which league?
I started off in the Regionalliga, and then I went to the Bundesliga, second division Bundesliga. So as an American, that was real hard back then. There wasn't a lot of Americans. Today, you hear a lot of, Christian Pulisic and a lot of these guys that are there. So, but back then, it wasn't really like, it was like a kid coming from Norway to play in the NBA.
Yeah, it was kind of a big deal, right? Kind of a big deal.
I wasn't exactly the red carpet was rolled out for me, so I really had to, work hard, be disciplined, and mentally really overcome a lot, because I wasn't accepted until, about third year, and then it was, okay, you can stay here for a little bit, so.
So we're going to dive more into that as I think you tell the story, because I think that alone is a good message to get to parents and our athletes, is that you could be really successful where you grow up. You can kind of be the big fish in the small pond, but man, it's always a challenge to go to that next level.
Yeah.
And sometimes we forget that and what it takes. So where did your soccer journey start? Let's go way back here.
Well, I have a plate that says 1979. I sleep in a soccer bag. I don't remember 1979, but I started a young age, 5. I really loved the game. It's just, I love I just felt it. It was there. And then through that journey of just, back then there wasn't a club. There was CSL, Coast Soccer League. That was it. And it was a guy that showed up with a suitcase of jerseys, and 20, 30 kids would show up, and he put out 18 jerseys and call your name. And if you got a jersey, you got a jersey that day and you got to play. If not, you just sit in the sideline and watch. It was club soccer. And
so that's interesting, right? Because you had to earn the right to even get on the field.
Yeah, and he showed up. I never forget, we all sit around, wait for that suitcase, and they were all folded nicely from his wife, and he lay them all out. And I was 13. There was guys 16. It was this U19, so it was a U19 team, but I was 13. So you're all sitting there and just waiting. Is he going to call my name this week? And it was. I mean, you couldn't probably do it this week in this generation, because of where we're at, like in terms of coaching and parents. But I was thinking about that the other day after we talked on the phone a little bit. I was thinking how today parents don't just drop off. I was thinking about that. Like the concept of just dropping off, saying, "Here, son, go to practice. I'm going to go shopping," or whatever our parents did. I don't remember, or I used to walk to the practice, right? I drove a bike, so. And just drop off and know that they're in a good place, and whatever they figure out, they figure out. I think here today, that's the hardest thing for parents. They drop off, but they want to stay involved and maybe interfere with that experience. Even though it's hard in this day and age because of all the stuff we hear on the news and stuff, it's kind of tough. But what I see is, when you see that, the kid come to practice, deal with the emotions of practice, deal with the struggles of practice, and then go home and maybe not have to be so emotional about it,
Yeah, we're both parents, right?
Yeah.
We have. I mean, you got 2 girls. Mm-hmm. I've got 3 and 2 boys. Because tried to even the score. Maybe not.
Yeah. Good luck on that.
Yeah,
one.
But it is hard as a parent, right?
Yeah.
So, and then we've had some good conversations about this, because we have, and in many ways, we have our coaching hat, and then we have our parent hat. And it doesn't always blend very well.
No.
And so, I mean, I know I've messed up, crossing that coaching line, being like, rather than being a father, and being supportive, I was a coach.
Yeah.
Right? Because I thought I knew what my daughter wanted. I thought I knew her, which was crazy.
We knew how to get her there, right? These are the steps you have to take.
These are the steps you have to take. So this is kind of where the story blends into just some insight into, as parents, I get it. I get why we want to be there. I get why we want to show them support by being there. My parents weren't around on the fields.
Yeah.
And I think that was, combination of things, right? When my mom was a single mom for a while, and so she was, just didn't have time to, just different days, right? We kind of trusted maybe the coach. You kind of alluded to that. Maybe parents, I don't know if it's that. I think there are parents that trust us. I think there's that combination of they want to show their kids support, and they think by being on the sideline, that's how they show them support. And I think for a lot of our young people, because I've seen it, especially in the gym setting, because the parents are so close to the kids. Yeah. Right? Our facility's not that big. We can't say, hey, stay in the stands, stay in the bleachers. And, the kids don't do as well, I think, when the parents are there. Yeah. Because they are worried. Because while they want to impress us as coaches, parents, I think, we should remember and take this good is that they want nothing more in the world than to impress their parents.
Yeah. Silent expectation, right?
Yeah.
There's a silence of expectation that it's like the same thing when I met you and you took all my players and teams and I had you work out with them, and I told you I'm not going to show up a lot.
Yeah.
And you were kind of what? It's because when the general's on deck, the team's different.
Totally different.
You got to probably see a better side, and I told you I'm jealous in a way because you get to be with my players in a setting that's more like them. They get to be themselves and have fun and work out. And, with me, as soon as I step on there, there's also the competition, who's up on who. I'm fighting for coach's favor. It's just, and it's the same with the parent. The parent shows up and stands there. There's a silent expectation. And that's hard sometimes for kids. Sometimes it helps kids. Like for me, I wanted to impress my dad. So I would run through a wall like during training just to make him say good job. But sometimes you don't know what kind of character, what they have, the skill set. So it's I think the hardest thing is the silent expectation, the drop off. How do you drop off your kid anymore? How do you really drop off your kid and just let them have that experience and trust the process? It's tough because of all the different things you hear in the world, and not every coach is trustworthy, right? Not every coach is this perfect mentor or whatever you want to say. But at the same time, as you just said, I have kids, right? And I do this for a living. I've raised athletes to play at the highest level, national team, overseas. Now they're coaching professionally, some of them in Germany. And I go to my kids, hey, you got to do this, and that. And they say, Dad, why don't you just be dad?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they want to hear.
And that's so hard. I'm like, I get paid to do this. Right. And I could give you this as my love language, but my love language, what I use every day with you and kids and helping being coach, doesn't always go into the household. So I could push my daughters to what exactly I know they need to do to sacrifice and things they need to do to get to the levels they talk about. But then I have to remember, wait a minute, my parents didn't talk to me about that stuff.
Yeah, so that's a good question, right? So our parents didn't really talk to us about it. And that's a lot of what I hear from a lot of athletes that have gotten to really high levels is the parents weren't all over them. Yeah. Right? You describe it as you knew you loved the game of soccer. Yep. Which I find interesting because I was reflecting on this with some of your players during the week, and it's like they're asking me about Champions League, and I don't follow it because I realize I love playing soccer, but I don't love soccer. Got it. Which is weird because I had to figure this out in my head because everything I did remember growing up was to be better on the soccer field, and I think I just really love competing. Yeah. Right, which is a big angle of it. Right, is I think. There's multiple facets to a young athlete. They have to learn to love competing, and I think with that is failure. And failure in the way of we don't like to really use that word with our kids, right? It's oh, you're a failure. You lost the game, which means your team didn't accomplish the objectives, and you failed the mission. The mission was to win the game, and that's okay. Yeah. Right? And so this goes back to what you were saying of showing up to a field, jerseys laid out. Not everybody got picked. Yeah. Did you ever not get picked?
I think once, and that was then I never wanted that. Yeah. Then I never wanted to feel that way again.
How'd that feel?
But I was 13. I was like one of the youngest kids standing around trying to get in between the 18-year-olds, and the 18-year-olds didn't really probably think a 13-year-old kid could go out there and handle his own.
Right.
So.
But that concept alone, right? I think I'm always thinking about what situation should I put my kids in, right, so that they can accomplish the major trials in their life that are coming.
Well, it's funny like you say that, because I was thinking my older daughter's been through 3 concussions. My younger daughter's me in a woman's body. So two different type of people, great athletes, good kids. But the funny part is how they process what they're doing. What in terms of what I think they should be doing.
Right.
And sometimes it's the hardest thing to do is, in the beginning, I screwed it all up because I overbeared. I was in the car telling her what she should have done. And if you want to sacrifice, if you want to make this, you got to put this time in it. And they just want their dad, and that was the hardest thing to realize through my parenting, that I have to put them in the environment and people like yourself. I had Daphne start working out with you and be around you, people that I know their influence would be so positive in their life. Not just for the sport, but how they approach things. How you think, how you talk I think is so important for these kids to be around, because it's not the game, it's not the wins that they're going to take, it's how they deal with those adversities, right?
Yeah.
Where they go to get advice, how they get advice, how they process advice, because we all know not all of us are going to win national titles, not all of us are going to go play D1, not all of us are going to play in college, but at the same time, these kids are going to go and have to face things in life, and good things, like how do you handle success? Sometimes you see these guys, they win a tournament and they think they're all that in a bag of chips, and they forget about the concepts.
And they shoot for about 30 seconds, right? And move on.
Yeah, they just forget. They forget that a lot of hard work and sacrifice came into these victories. It feels good, but at the same time, you don't want to look down on anybody because they don't have a trophy. Some of the trophies people win, you can't see.
I would say most of them, let's be honest, right? A lot of times, as we've gotten to know our players, right? Again, the journey. It's kind of like when you watch any good old sports movie, right? If you saw a football guy run on the field for his last 2 plays of his senior year and just makes a tackle, you're like, big deal, right? But if you watch the movie Rudy, you're like, oh dang, right? What he did to get to those 2 plays, right? And what he had to sacrifice and all those. So that kind of goes. Let's go back to that. Go back to that. Okay, you didn't get picked, right? Didn't like that feeling. And I remember that too, growing up and moving around a lot. When you're the new kid, you always get picked last. So you're constantly proving yourself. Yeah. But what was nice about that, and I think this kind of maybe goes into that, of why we need to teach our kids how to win, right? How to enjoy the journey, right? But really how to handle the setbacks as you go, right? Because I guess I maybe keep bringing this up because I think the setbacks are coming. I mean, very few players are going to make our national team, which would be, for soccer players, the highest honor, right? So they're going to get cut at some point, right? I mean, they're going to get cut. So if a kid never gets cut and then faces that at 23, 24 years old, I feel like that's going to be much more crushing to him or her than a kid that had to battle and scratch from the bottom and would take 3 steps forward but then feel like they get knocked down, right? And then have to get back up, and it's those patterns. And I get it. I mean, I feel like almost every day I'm grappling with this way of I just want my kids to be okay, right? I don't want them to feel that, but then I have to remind myself it's they need to.
It's the same when I got done with my career, I started doing jiu-jitsu. And and anybody that does it will know you don't just go wild. It's a sport. It's actually a thinking man's wrestling game. It's tough. You don't just go in there and start grabbing necks and you end up get choked or an armbar or anything. But what I realized is that when you start doing stuff like that, how the adversity comes and how you deal with it, how you have to stay calm, and how your body is trying to figure out what to do. And it's kind of like the game of life, right? Because you're getting choked out at times, and if you panic, if you give up, there's all kinds of different things that go through your head, right? And you're trying to figure out, what do I do at that moment? That's kind of what our kids are trying to learn as they go through these adversities. Like, I had 2 kids your son plays on that lost their dads.
Yeah.
I mean, great, you could have all the championships in the world, but I'm sure they'd give those up for their dad.
Absolutely. So we look at that, right? And
so you got this kid going through that, and the only tool and vehicle to probably get him through that is sports. And being around men that can help him understand that, hey, this is still how a man has to be. Because, it's hard. The mom's dealing with her own, just lost her husband. Now she has to raise a man.
Yeah.
And I couldn't, on the opposite side, I couldn't imagine trying to raise my daughters without my wife.
Right.
Because at 15, 16, their dad doesn't know much, right? When they're 3 to 7, so all you dads out there that have daughters, enjoy every moment till about 13, because after that you don't know anything, and you're the guy that just opened your wallet and had the money. But those are the moments that I realize how important we all are, like the coaches, the parents. I call it the triangle effect, where you have the coach and you have the parent at the base, parents at the base of the triangle, and the kids on top. I've always coached that way, where if you don't have that support, it's really hard for that kid to get a solid foundation. And even teachers, right? Teachers come into effect in this too.
Yeah.
How they take learning. Even when you don't get the A+, are you still valued? What's your identity? So if you get a B+, are you stupid?
Well, that's where I think I'm really fortunate. I was looking back, is I don't remember getting good grades a lot, right? And my mom was a teacher, so it's like, and I remember dreading showing her the report card, hiding a lot of progress reports.
My wife promised not to talk publicly ever about how I got into UCI.
Yeah.
So
let's leave that then, because this is
until my kids graduate, she said I could then tell that story.
Yeah, so we'll wait on that one because they haven't graduated.
Yeah,
but that's interesting, right? Of like, where do we put the value on what is success? And so, I mean, we could probably spend hours on that. But let's go back to your upbringing. What did your parents do for work?
Well, my dad was a teacher.
Okay.
He taught at Saddleback College for 36 years. He was he ran the construction technology program over there.
Okay.
It's gone now. They don't do that anymore. Word shops and all that are kind of, what do they call it, vocational skills.
I think those will start coming back. But that's
I hope so. My mom was also a teacher that worked special ed.
No.
So she did that for a long time. And then she worked with helping kids find jobs that maybe didn't have parents to help them understand how to approach a job, how to fill out an application and stuff. So I grew up with 2 parent teachers. Dad came from Germany, fought to be here, fought to be an American. So that's cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. That is really cool. We'll have to talk about that maybe another time. But so you had parents that were both teachers. How involved were they? Like you said, we often coach our kids a lot.
Yeah.
Right. So how involved were your parents in coaching you as like sports coaches? Was your dad ever a soccer? Or did he ever?
No, my dad was. He grew up in Germany, played soccer, but never really played at a high level. He was a big judo guy. He did judo, 10th degree black belt. So he really.
That's okay then.
Yeah, he was the white guy among the Japanese that at that time was really hard, because not a lot of guys in the dojo would walk in and just in the Japanese culture and be accepted. And
right.
So he faced that. I think when I look back at now and back at when we grew up, what our parents were and what we're doing as parents, I think the part of letting the kid have his own journey, and at the same time teaching him responsibilities of normal life. Because I was thinking about this the other day. I'm failing at it as a parent right now. I'm totally failing at it. I do a lot of my daughter's chores because I think they're busy working hard at their studies. I do a lot of things that maybe I should be forcing my kids to do, because when we did sports for us. So, and then we had responsibility at home, right? We had to go home and do our dishes,
if I didn't do the chores, I wasn't going outside.
And I couldn't go play sports. So I think what's happening is we're in such a society now that everything's going so fast that the part I'm seeing the kids are struggling with the most is how to manage their own life.
No, absolutely.
You know,
and it's interesting that you say that, because that's a struggle that I think we all have as parents. I think hopefully everybody can agree with this. It's like, hey, I want my kid to be successful.
You want them to keep up with everything.
Yeah, if I can cut out these chores, more likely they're going to be successful. And then there's this.
But my dad always told me when I have kids, I don't have to do chores anymore. He lied.
Well, that's your own fault. That's your own fault. But
I keep telling my daughters that, they keep laughing.
It would be a lot easier. We have a little bit of contention in our house on Sundays on dishes, right?
Yeah.
It'd be a lot easier if I would just go do the dishes rather than fighting with my kids to
but,
have
but
them do the
amen,
dishes.
that you could see it through. That's what I realized, that a lot of these kids, it's not their fault that maybe they don't understand a lot of the stuff. When I get them here in high school, first thing I had to work on is communication.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be a practice coach. Not your mom emails me, right? You communicate with me. I'm your teacher or whatever. You're, the guy you're supposed to be communicating to. And that took 3 years to finally get kids to communicate on their own, because I think we're not in that place anymore where we get dropped off and we do our thing in sports, and then we go home, and now we're part of a family, and there's chores and there's things to be done that you're responsible for. I don't know where that went.
Yeah, and this is because again we're saying it as coaches, right? And at the same time, I'm listening to your words of like I'm struggling with this as a parent, right? Of like, how do I, oftentimes it would just be easier to do it for them, right? But it is the process. It's those little things, right, that have to be held really important.
And I fail at it. I'm a dad that I love to hear my daughter, "Thank you, Dad, for doing the cat box," and "Thank you, welcome, sweetheart." It's my. It's also my looking for value. So it's hard to say, nope, you're going to do the cat box. But what I'm noticing now is when the kids the sport is theirs, like they're doing it because they love it, and the parents are more there to support them, just, as long as they're being treated well with respect and happy, if they play or not, flight 2 or not, flight 3 or not, whatever level. And then, but when they come home, they're parents. So they come home and they're saying, okay, now I'm going to be your coach at home and make sure you learn how to do your homework on time, keep track of what your schedule is, and, like teach them those things, because I'm failing at it. And I see that I'm working with the college kids.
Yeah.
And the hardest thing is with college kids is when they tell me, hey, how are you going to remember that? I got right here, coach. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then a week later, they show up, they miss the appointment, the academic meeting, and they said, I looked at them and I said, you got it right there.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thing, right? Because we have to give them strategies and tools, teach them how to do stuff. Like I don't.
But did your parents give you that?
Some way they did, right? Well, I think they did, right? Because it was like, hey, if you wanted to go to practice, you had to have this, and this done.
Yeah.
Right? There's your checklist.
Yeah, and they didn't write it out for us. They didn't remind us.
Right.
And I remember the one time I played baseball, and I didn't clean my room, and my mom, I had to miss a baseball game. Guess what? That was the last time I didn't clean my room on time.
Yeah.
Because the feeling really stunk, and that was a great lesson that helped me later on in being a soccer coach, being a soccer professional.
And that's a reminder too, right? It's the hard lessons, things that we don't want our kids to feel like they're worthless, right? And oftentimes we do that, I think, as just human beings. When we make a mistake, especially when our parents find out, right? It's like the low of low. Somebody you really respect
Dad gets home.
right? You're like, oh no, like that was the worst punishment. And I think about that growing up, and this is kind of the hope of this, right? Bringing coaches together, hopefully having an audience of parents that are itching to learn of like, we know there's issues here. We know our kids are struggling, right? So not what is hey, here's the 5 things that if you do this, it's guaranteed. Like, there's too many distractions, right?
If I want to buy it.
Yeah, right. I think hopefully this ongoing dose of just stories and reminders of like, hey, I remember struggling. I remember when I was held accountable. I remember one of the stories. So I moved to California, beginning at like middle of 5th grade, right after the holidays, and go to this new school, and I'm the new kid from Hawaii, which I think alone is like just kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
I'm half Chinese, so I got that Hawaiian look,
right?
So maybe there was some girls interested in the new kid, right? And when you're the guy on Terra, the other guy, the guys aren't a big fan of that.
No,
not a big fan of that.
No, new guy.
So And I'm a pretty naive 5th grade kid,
Yeah.
right? And I remember one kid told me like, "Hey, you should call this girl this name." And I won't even say it on here because it wasn't a very nice word, right? And I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, no, I didn't even say it,
Yeah.
right? But the rumor mill went, "Hey, Justin said this,"
Oh, jeez.
right? And I guess the problem was I didn't deny it. I didn't say, "Oh, hold on, I didn't say that," right? And dumb 5th grader. Trying to get attention, right? Trying to hang out with the boys.
Yeah,
the
be
boys
accepted.
are cool. Be accepted, right? And at the end of the day, she handed me a note, right? And it was like this when girls wrote notes. Right now, it would have been a text message. It was like this long,
something.
yeah, FaceTime, 1-page note.
Whatever it's called.
That was like, I can't believe you said that. I can't believe you called me this. I can't, you were so nice. We're trying, all this, just kind of a nice letter, but it just really made me feel bad. Right, and so I brought the note home, did throw it away, put it on my desk at home, right, this is like a Friday. Mom found it.
Oh, nice.
Right, Mom found it, and was like, "What is this all about?" And I froze, right, didn't say anything. And she marched me into the principal's office that next day of school, right, with the note, so he could read it, and said, "My son owes this young lady an apology."
Wow.
Right, and it wasn't one of those like, I don't remember her questioning me. I remember like it doesn't like if you didn't say it, it doesn't matter because you didn't not say it. You didn't stand up and say no, we're not going to do that. Right? It was this whole like not just because you didn't do it, but because you didn't correct it.
Yeah.
Right? And I apologized, and that has stuck with me.
Yeah.
Right? That has stuck with me really hard because it's not just what you do; it's standing up and making sure that if things are happening and you know it's wrong.
Yeah.
Just to stand by and let it go makes you like you just did it.
Yep.
Right? And that kind of goes into growing up on some military bases and the Hawaiian culture, right? Like everybody looks after each other.
Yeah.
So there's occasional knock on the door from the neighbor saying, "Hey, we saw these kids do this,"
Yeah.
and we instantly got in trouble. We didn't get sat down and going, "Oh, what's the story? What was happening?" It was like they took the neighbors who my parents trusted, right, to kind of oversee me in the neighborhood. Was like they didn't discipline me. They didn't yell at us in the street like, "Don't do that."
Yeah.
They just knocked on our door and said, "Hey, I saw your kid doing this." Parents corrected it.
Yeah.
Right? And I want to say that this is kind of that community that I hope to rebuild, that we can, I think we need to do it. I think our kids need more support.
Yeah.
I think coaches like you, right, you coach my oldest son, and it's been hard and yet really good because I want to be really involved with him.
Yeah.
But he's a teenager, right? So he doesn't always listen to dad as well. But you're sending such a similar message, right? And with a similar tone. So I think that's part of it too, right? You got to find the right coach sometimes.
Well, it's like when you were saying that, reminds me, I did 3 trips to Rwanda for a missionary trip. And it's rebuilding Rwanda after the genocide. When you're there, you see it's a culture of the society trying to rebuild together.
Right.
So there's kids running around without parents.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody's a parent.
Yeah.
And so, you see a kid getting disciplined by a man or a woman, and I asked, what did their child do? That's not her son. I'm like, but she's disciplining that kid. Is that okay? Is somebody going to sue her?
Yeah.
And they're like, no, this is what we do in everyone. If the kid was doing something wrong, as a culture, we have to make sure everybody's doing the right thing. I thought, wow, man, if that was here.
Yeah, if that was here, right? And I hope, this is just personally, right? I hope to see a little bit more of that here.
Yeah.
Not in the way that, and it's a real hard thing to do, right? Because there's a lot of trust there. There's a lot you got to get to know your neighbors more, and this is part of the reason why I have you here today, right? Is we see you as a coach oftentimes on the sideline, right? And we don't see the whole story. We don't see the picture. We forget because we're not there all the time. We don't hear. We don't. When you hold the kid for 20 minutes after the game, we just kind of want to go home.
Yeah.
But
20 minutes after practice.
Or after practice, yeah. And we're sitting there going, "Hey, we're on a schedule and this and that," and
dinner's waiting.
But then I've grown to love that part because I know what's being said is that's the time that we need to just get away from the schedule sometimes. Those unscheduled moments of really teaching moments.
Yeah.
You can't schedule those in. You can't plan on a lot of those. A lot of the things that are going to make our kids successful in the long run, and this is a big thing that I want to talk about, is our kids are going to be professionals.
Yeah.
Maybe not soccer players, maybe not volleyball players, but they're going to be, hopefully, responsible, professional parents, in the workforce, whatever they do. We want to create this thing that they're going to be the best at whatever they do.
Yeah.
And whatever life throws at them, and maybe they got to crawl from the bottom and go up. Maybe they get to start mid-level, high level. Doesn't matter. Go earn it and be really good at it. And so I know you got some of your boys here training right now, and we got to get them broken down and set up and on to school. So we're going to kind of wrap this up today. But Coach, thanks for your time. Hopefully people found this insightful. If anything, just to reflect. I think as we reflect, and there's a lot of stuff going on in our country right now.
Yeah.
There's just so much negativity that's it's a dangerous path in itself. Because it breeds more negativity.
Yeah.
It puts a lens over our eyes where we don't see the world in a hopeful place that we can contribute. But we see it all the time with the teams on the field. And the reminder of getting back to the fields for the right reason is like, it's a good distraction. B, it's like hard work to improve yourself. And if we work together, we can improve this, and we can find that true joy.
Yeah, and be open, because I'm learning every day. I've been doing this 30 years. Every day on the field or with a kid, wherever, like you said, walking off the field, I'm seeing something new every day. Of where this culture is going, how we can help kids. And there's really, like you said, there's no like ABC. Do ABC and you'll be fine. I think it's like you said, it's continue knowing what your purpose and your why is. And then when you figure that out, that could be another podcast.
Yeah.
When you figure that out, that could be your guiding tool, because I think that's the hardest thing is, like you said, I have dinner ready too. But there was something in that kid's eyes.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's, there's something in it. It's a lot of moments. I get in trouble for that all the time, right? Keeping kids too long, because, sport brings out opportunities to make sure our kids are okay.
Yeah.
And that's the big reason why we're doing it. So, of course, we're getting emotional here.
Yeah.
There's two guys that get awfully emotional about our athletes. But let's wrap up with a positive note, right? That the kids, what we have today, they have. I think they're getting better soccer coaching. I think they have better resources as far as physically taking care of the bodies. Nutrition's way better, and so because of that huge potential, right? I also believe in the opposite. It's going to go either way.
Yeah.
Right. This generation coming up is, I think, better than any generation we've ever seen.
Yes.
But we have to give them the opportunity to rise to that.
Yes.
And I think that comes through, quote unquote, the greatest generation of Americans was responding to adversity and war.
Yep.
Right? And that's what made them the greatest. So maybe keep that in mind, right? We're going to raise the next generation, but we have to channel them and give them opportunities to realize, like, they're going to have to go to battle a little bit to make this a better place. So thank you, Coach.
Okay.
And they're going to be okay, right? Together.
Yep, they're going to be okay.
They try to stand by themselves, maybe not, but together we'll be all right.
United we stand.
That's right. Yes, sir. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a good day.
Till next time. So check us out, missionstrong.com, themissionstrong.com, and we're on all the social media kind of handles as well as Mission Strong, The Mission Strong. Sorry. Check us out and keep listening and give us some feedback there of what maybe you want to hear some more, and give us some insight of who else we could sit down and talk to that you're interested in getting to know. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thanks so much for listening to the Mission Strong podcast. If you enjoyed this episode or would like to know more, check us out on our social media, The Mission Strong, or our website, themissionstrong.com. If you enjoyed this episode, leave us a review on iTunes or give us some feedback in the comment section. It'll help us get an idea of the kind of content that you'd like to listen to. Until next time, thank you so much for listening, and we hope to better provide more content that you appreciate in the future. Thank you. Take care.